Darkcast Network. Out of the shadows comes the best of indie podcasts.
Welcome to the J Squared Horror Podcast, where two lifelong horror fans talk all things horror. Pour yourself your favorite drink and hang out. Here are your hosts, Josh and Jake.
Hey guys, welcome to the J Squared Horror Podcast. I'm Josh.
And I'm Jake.
And on today's exciting episode, what are we going to be discussing?
We are discussing 2004's Seed of Chucky, directed by Don Mancini.
And starting off a special month, who are we going to have with us on the podcast today, Jake?
Starting off our very special author month,
Yep.
we're going to have author Jon Cohn.
Yes, he is an author. I just finished his book called /Tag. It was amazing. We are going to have him on the podcast. He's coming in via StreamYard, and it's going to look a little different, but we're going to have a lot of fun with it. But before we get into the episode, what would we like to let any new fan to the J Squared Horror Podcast know?
As always, like and subscribe on YouTube.
We're on there. Watch us, like, subscribe.
Also find us on Spotify.
Yep.
As well as Apple.
Yes.
And always Instagram. J Squared Horror Podcast, link tree in the bio. New episodes every Thursday.
Every Thursday, two lifelong horror fans decide to get together. We drink.
We do.
And we talk all things horror. With this podcast, we like being a genuine conversation-based podcast, not an information-based podcast, and we love having guests on like you're going to see today, like you've seen in some prior episodes. So if you're at all excited or want to be a part of the J Squared Horror Podcast, you can go to www.jsquaredhorrorpodcast.com. There you can request to be on the episode or request an episode idea. We are excited to have people stand up for their favorite horror films, and with this month, we're not changing our whole shtick.
Nope.
When we emailed these authors, we asked them what movies they wanted to discuss and if they're excited to talk about it, and all of them sent us one. So this is not going to change. We're going to give them opportunities to talk about what they want to, but our shtick is going to stay the same. So you guys hang in there tight. We're going to have Jon Cohn. I always panic when I say his name.
It's all right.
We are going to have Jon
Cohn
on the podcast in just a second. So we'll see you guys shortly. All right, guys, we are here with Mr. Jon
Cohn.
He is a horror author. He's our first guest on our month-long of horror authors. We're excited to have him on. I actually just finished /Tag, and I wanted to say real quickly at the beginning of this episode, it fucking blew my mind.
Oh, thank you.
Yes, I got it on Audible. I can't read, so I was stoked that I could. Hey, there it is. Yeah. It's really cool. One of the questions I had just real quickly is how much was it influenced by what is it? A House on Haunted Hill?
Yeah, so House on Haunted Hill was a major influence. 13 Ghosts was a major influence, and
nice.
Then Cabin in the Woods.
Yeah, I definitely got all of those vibes for sure.
You named those movies, yeah.
Yeah, I literally did.
Yeah.
Him and his family are humongous House on Haunted Hill fans, so I was excited to see if it was as much inspired by that as I thought it was.
Yeah. House on Haunted Hill is one like the remake one, right? Not the original Vincent Price, but
Yeah.
the like the crappy remake. But
I think that's the only one we covered, isn't it?
I watch it every year. I watch it every year. I saw that movie. My dad took me to see it when I was like 12, and he didn't give a shit. So he was like, "I'm gonna go see another movie. Don't tell your mom." And I went in, and I was the only person in the entire theater.
Oh,
and I'm like 12, and I was freaking out. The part where he's bouncing the ball, and they've got Jeffrey Rush in the tank, and it comes up, and it's his head, and I don't know, it stuck with me. And now, like, as an adult, I still watch it every year, and I'm like, I know that this isn't a good movie, but fuck, do I love it.
You know, that's an interesting take that we keep finding out in this whole shtick that we have on having people stand up for some of their favorite horror films of all time. Is like the reasons behind it vary so much, whether it's nostalgia or whether it absolutely terrified you when you were younger, then you got older and just enjoyed the aspect of being that scared when you were younger.
Yeah.
All of that stuff blows my mind. And being a guy that probably has to go to deep, dark places to create amazing stories like Slash Tag, it's intriguing to hear your take on that. That's really cool.
Yeah, it's very, very influential movie on me. So you absolutely nailed it with House on Haunted Hill.
Do you have any cool upcoming projects? I know you do board games too. Do you want to take a second to talk about any of your stuff that you got working on?
Yeah. So, on the Slash Tag line, I've actually got a prequel that just came out last week. It's called Try Not to Die on Slash Tag. It's like a choose your adventure from the 80s. Except every time you make a choice, there's a 50% chance that you'll die horribly. So you get to be like an early play tester in Slash Tag, which is supposed to be this horror reality competition. So you're a play tester on the show. And things go really horribly for you. I do have a board game coming out that I'm really excited about. I'm working with Stop the Killer Games. I am co-designing with Eli Roth a Thanksgiving game. So based on the movie, he came in, we had our first meeting. He was like, look, there's 3 things I want. 1, this has to be the most offensive holiday game ever. 2, it has to be easy enough for a grandma to learn to play.
Okay.
And 3, she has to hate it.
Easy enough to play, but has to want it destroyed upon finding out what it truly is.
Yeah. So the majority of the game is about trying to get yourself killed as many times as possible by John Carver. So it's going to be fun. It's coming out this November, and it's available for pre-order now at stopthekiller.com.
Hey, you guys heard it here. Stopthekiller.com. You can pre-order Thanksgiving. It's really cool. So have you met in person, or is this like all via online stuff?
It's been on Zoom, but we've met like 6 or 7 times now.
Oh wow.
He is first of all, he's like the nicest guy in the world. Super cool. Also an absolute madman. So you got a little bit of both. You guys did an episode on Thanksgiving.
Yeah, we did.
It turns out like the McCarty character, like the party guy who's like, oh yeah, I'm a drug or a gun runner and also host like teenage drinking parties. He's based on a real human being. And I was like, oh my God. So like Eli wrote a bunch of trivia questions in the game that are like McCarty things, and it's all written by Eli. So like if you get the game, you're getting a bunch of content that's specifically written by Eli himself. And then I'm doing like the design.
Cool.
Yeah. It's really neat.
That is cool. We covered it. And we had our thoughts and opinions on it. But it is exciting that, 2 people that want to do something different, horror is so turned its back on for so long in the mass community that like doing board games and stuff like that. To me, when I saw your profile, if you will, once you emailed us, I was like, holy shit. Like, I didn't even know that was possible. Like to be able to sit there with my people and play horror board games is really, really cool. So tip of the hat to you, sir, and creating something that I hadn't personally seen done as well as what it seems like you're doing.
Oh, thank you. Well, I was in the board game industry for about 10 years doing this and that, kind of struggling. And then I switched over when the pandemic happened. I was like, no, I've always wanted to be a writer. And then I'd been in the board games, and I decided to take writing seriously. And I have 4 books out now, a 5th one coming out later this year. But then it was like there was this opportunity to kind of merge the 2 of them together, and it's like, okay, this is the best of both worlds.
Yeah,
I can make board games about horror and then write about horror. Perfect. My whole life is horror.
No, that's awesome. That is awesome. He's definitely a lifelong horror fan. I can say it now that I'm in my 30s. I've now passed the point of no return.
I just have a quick board game question.
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
Lay it on me.
Do you have a favorite board game?
Ooh, that's a great question. Okay, so my favorite board game is completely not in horror. It's Dune Imperium. It's so Dune, right? Like everybody's watching Dune right now.
It's huge, right?
But it was a game that came out a couple of years ago, and it's the only like medium weight game I can get my wife to play. And she's like obsessed with it. It's just a super fun game. It's pretty easy to learn, but it's got a lot of strategy in there, and we played a lot. So yeah, I would say Dune Imperium.
Okay. Do you have one, Josh?
Do I have a favorite board game?
Yeah.
Candyland.
Okay. Mine is Clue.
Clue.
I love Clue.
I mean, that's a solid game
Also,
choice.
the movie also.
Oh,
Very
the
good
movie's
as
solid.
well. Love
Yeah,
the movie.
Yeah. The only reason I hate Clue is because I feel like people cheat a lot. Or they'll like say it out of turn, and I get very upset because I've been working hard this entire game to get all my pieces in play.
People are going to cheat regardless.
Yeah. It's hard to cheat in Candyland. No, it is crazy though, because like I have never been that deep into anything that makes my brain actually work. And I was talking to him about this before, but I never realized the greatness of audiobooks. Like I've purchased your book since. I got it for my girlfriend so she could read it after I finished it. But it is nice for me because like my ADHD kicks on and I can't, like, I don't like when I listen to audiobooks, I'm like, wait, is this how people hear stories in their head when they're reading it? Like, that's insane to me. So, like, to actually be able to enjoy something as great as like Slash Tag, for me, it literally blew my mind. Like, I was like trying to call him 3 days ago when I finished it to be like, dude, this book's no joke. And then I got super nervous to have you on the podcast. Like I was nervous before, but then I finished your book and I was like, he's like huge, dude. I can't have him on. Like, I don't want to disappoint him. It was really cool because I haven't experienced that, you know, like to enjoy somebody's work and then to be able to sit and virtually hang out with them is surreal. And I really do appreciate you coming on our podcast.
I super appreciate you guys having me on. I'm just as excited to be here. So the feeling is mutual.
That's awesome. So
has said no one ever.
Yeah, literally. Even the people we have on, they're just like, yeah, these guys are cool. I know.
I've been listening to your episodes for like the last 3 days to get ready for this, and I'm like, oh man, I planned on listening to like one, and then I was like, no wait, I got to get the next one. Oh shit, they did like Black Christmas. All right, I got to do that one.
Yeah, we try to cover as much stuff that intrigues us, that maybe not a lot of people our age or that are listening to our podcast watch or check out. So we're excited. And honestly, this one, I don't know if you heard during the Nightmare on Elm Street one or Wes Craven's New Nightmare, but it blew my mind when you said Seed of Chucky. It rocked my core. It's never a movie I thought I'd have to, dive into with somebody, which is cool.
Yeah.
It's oft underlooked as a legit Chucky movie, but we're at the point where Don Mancini has made 7 Chucky films and 3 seasons of a TV show. And nobody else with the big boys has done this. Nobody has stuck with their IP. Like Wes Craven, he did Nightmare 1. Yeah. Then he did Wes Craven's New Nightmare. Scream, he co-wrote Scream 1 with Kevin Williamson, didn't write any others. Kevin Williamson then wrote 1, 2, and 4, and then dipped out. Clive Barker did Hellraiser, dipped out. You know, like every other major horror franchise, the person who created it did like 1 or 2 entries and then was like, I'm getting out of here. And Don Mancini's been doing this since 1988, and I would say that Chucky is more popular now than he has ever been. Yeah, and especially with the TV show.
Yeah, I agree with that. Yeah,
season 2 really went all in on revisiting everything that came from Seed of Chucky.
Oh wow!
And I think it really elevated everything that you see in Seed of Chucky. Some of the stuff that was really controversial that people were panning when it came out in 2004. Are now kind of looked at retroactively a little more fondly because they're like, oh, this kind of was ahead of its time in some ways.
I didn't realize that till watching it last night. Yeah.
And like, there's a lot of things that's like, okay, well, we laid some groundwork that we didn't touch again for like almost 20 years.
Yeah.
But then now he came back with season 2 and he was like, okay, Glenn/Glenda became real humans who were like these non-binary twins who were like one wants to not be a homicidal maniac and the other one just has murder on their mind. And it was like, oh, we revisited this and we like revisited their relationship with Tiffany and like everything. It was, it really brought the whole thing full circle.
That's crazy.
It is crazy because going into it, I was not I literally sent Josh a text yesterday that said, I would rather put my face out with what must I say? Put a campfire out with my face.
Put a campfire out with your face. Yeah.
I did not want to watch this movie.
Which is super
I'm so sorry.
No, but hear this out.
In retrospect, It wasn't bad at all.
Yeah, sometimes you're going into it with what you might have watched 15, 16, 17, for some of us 20 years ago now, where it's like, yeah, you watched it in its prime. You were young at the time. You might not have picked up on some of the things, or you might have just been, too busy in your head about other stuff.
So I had never seen this movie.
Oh, you've never seen it?
The last Chucky movie I watched was Bride of Chucky.
Okay.
And I hated that.
Yeah.
Even as a kid, I was like, yeah, I don't like this. This ain't for me.
Why? I'm just curious. What was it about Bride of Chucky that took you out?
It just didn't interest me. Like, just in general. So, like, for me, I like the original Child's Play. Good movie. I love Child's Play 3.
Oh,
that's probably my favorite of the franchise.
That's a controversial opinion. All right.
That's what this guy does.
But then I was like, yeah, I'm good. So I've checked out the TV show a little bit. I do enjoy it.
Hearing him say what he just said about it, I didn't even want to watch it, but knowing that I enjoyed Seed of Chucky so much, being that I've always been like, Chucky doesn't scare me very much. Like, it's a doll, I'll just punt it. Like, yeah,
but
whatever.
You said numerous times.
Yeah, I have. But now I'm actually intrigued to maybe in my own time go back and check out the TV show because I mean, I enjoyed this movie this time for multiple reasons that I'm sure we'll get into. But this guy's coming from a place of a very controversial favorite in a franchise movie himself. So I'm intrigued that you were as taken aback by having to cover a not so popular one of the franchise, being that you stand on a hill for a Friday the 13th film that a lot of people don't agree with.
What is it? Don't tell me it's Jason Takes Manhattan.
You know it is. It is. It is Jason Takes Manhattan.
Rob Hedden's classic masterpiece.
So
Jason Takes Manhattan, where 90% of it's on a boat that somehow comes from a lake.
Dude, if you listen to my episode on Jason Takes Manhattan, we just became best friends.
This is not why we have John here.
I'm sorry.
Like you and Caleb. This is what happens with you and Caleb Jones, dude. I'm finally getting this moment.
No.
Lakes, by definition, do not lead out to the ocean.
Dude, it's like he watched our episode.
I'm aware of that. Also, by definition, dolls do not become possessed.
They can get possessed
and kill people.
They can't. I'm not saying it's more possible than a lake leading to the ocean.
You gotta ask Dembala.
all I know is it's something different.
It is,
which is why I think Child's Play 3 so much. It's something is different.
Yeah, it's out of the normal context.
Different settings, different. Yeah.
Like I said though, that's one of the fun things about getting into people's favorites. I give him shit because he's my best friend, and does that. So it is exciting to get into people's favorites. So, is there anything particular that you love overall, like the biggest parts of the Seed of Chucky that you really just stand by?
Yeah, so like this was the beginning, and you could argue that the beginning of Chucky turning into something more than being kind of just a standard horror film. You could say that kind of started with Bride of Chucky, where they were like, okay, we're going to make Chucky like the main character now. It's not just like we're going to turn him into a comedic character, right? Because we've seen that with so many different horror franchises where like Freddy became a jokey character as time went on, but he became the butt of the joke as it went on. Chucky owned that he was going to become a comedic character. And they went into it knowing like, okay, he's going to become somebody who's comedic, but is still somebody who like revels in murder, and not just murder, but like really interesting, creative kills. And I think that's something that you see a lot of in Seed of Chucky. Like they melt John Waters' face with acid.
They do.
Like, I just love the fact that John Waters is in this movie. Like,
right?
That was a point I was going to make, so you took it right from me. But yeah, I loved that fact that it was just like so aware of its time and just fun that you could do that and have all that happen. And you're right, creativity wise, I mean, it's insane what they were doing in 2004 versus like a lot of people will say Terrifier is like the biggest pushing of the envelope that we get currently. They're doing it with a doll, for so many years. So it actually brought me back into maybe like I'm never going to say Chucky belongs on the Mount Rushmore of horror icons, but I will say that I can watch the movies and enjoy them because they're a fun time. Yeah.
Well, I would say before you lock in that comment 100%, I would say watch the other two Chucky movies, Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky, because after Seed of Chucky was received not so hot, he took about 10 years off and then came back and kind of reinvented the character as horror again.
Okay.
And so he was like, okay, we're going to go back to doing this as a more of a straight horror. And then it went more intentionally into like the bonkers crazy comedy, but it was a more gradual transition where like we'd already seen where it went. So it was kind of like these kind of peaks and valleys situation where he's like, all right, I'm going to dip in and I'm going to dip out. I'm going to dip in. I'm going to dip out. Yeah, and so then when we came to the point where there was the TV show, and you know, the show is called Chucky. There are human main characters, but Chucky is also a main character. And it's some of the most violent, gory stuff I've ever seen in the franchise on the show. Oh, he literally comes down a chimney on Christmas and chainsaws a woman in half. And it is gorier than the sawing scene in Terrifier when he saws the woman in half. It is gorier than that. And they put it on, and it was on TV.
Yeah.
So like
that's huge.
Yeah. So like Chucky is as violent as he's ever been. He's as sharp as he's ever been, both like from a comedic and a deadly standpoint.
Yeah.
I think he is currently up there as a king of horror, just because like nobody else has been able to maintain that franchise for so long. Like Michael Myers has been fucked 6 Ways from Sunday. The Jackie Earle Haley Freddy Krueger was awful. I mean, that was a true nightmare on Elm Street.
Clip that. No, I mean, you're absolutely right. See, I didn't know that it had been the same guy for so long. We actually literally, while we were walking down the hall to get into the studio, we kind of both had the revelation of like, holy shit, I'm pretty sure he has done like all of them.
Yeah.
And like you said, nobody else has. And that speaks volumes on not only passion and love, but a big thing that bothers a lot of us with these huge franchises is consistency of a character. Whereas, like, you know, I'm a big Halloween fan. I'll stand on top of a hill and say 1978 is the best, but I also know that what follows it isn't that great.
Yeah, Curse of Chucky or Curse of Michael Myers. That's a rough watch.
A lot of them are, and I'm not even going to front. Like, there's some bad Michael Myers films, and I get that. And it's this because, you know, so many hands were in the pot, and they're all trying to create their own creativity. But unknowingly, I've been bashing on a franchise that could theoretically be one of the strongest because they stuck to the core. And they stuck to some of the original creators and ideas. Whether you take little sideburns and like obviously comparing Child's Play to Seed of Chucky is like, you would be like, what the fuck? But if you watch them, I'm sure in order, it all kind of leads up to that. And that's something that I've honestly been missing because I've shit on the Chucky franchise for my entire life.
But, you know, it's kind of like when you watch like the Saw movies, you know, if you just kind of watch one here and there, you're like, well, like what's even happening?
Yeah.
But if you watch them all like as a marathon and you just go one to the next, you're like, whoa, this is a really complex plot.
It is.
It is. Yeah.
It's got a lot of moving parts.
Yeah. And it sucks because being that I've always been a Halloween fan and I always like will say Michael Myers is the best. Honestly, other than 1 and 2, ours just goes bonkers. Even Friday the 13th stands up a lot better consistency based up until a certain point,
which is true.
And it's always eye-opening me to talk to different fans of horror like I'm getting to and being like, damn, have I just been stupid this whole time? And have I just been like stuck? Because like one of the big reasons I got into horror was because of the just Michael Myers and the shadow play and John Carpenter's skills and all that stuff. But as a franchise, you know, we constantly talk franchise. And it's very intriguing to me, these different facts that are brought to my attention, and it makes me grow as a horror fan. So that's super cool.
Yeah, I think there's different ways to view a franchise. Like when you watch them as they're coming out, you know, with like sometimes it's 2 years between, sometimes it's 1 year between, sometimes it's 10 years between.
Yeah.
And like you forget stuff, you don't remember how it was before. But when you go back and you revisit it and you kind of have those like preconceived notions already baked in, but then you watch it again and you're like, oh, yeah. Like I maybe didn't give this a fair shake. I maybe didn't understand where this was at the time. Or maybe you're watching like modern stuff and you're comparing it to things like if you're watching Chucky now and you're like comparing it to Megan.
Yeah.
Right. And you're like, oh, well, like Megan is standing on the shoulders of Chucky. And that movie was a lot of fun. But you know, it wouldn't exist if it weren't for, you know, the mountain that Chucky built.
I mean, that's true.
That is very true.
M3gan or whatever you want to call that one.
Yeah, right.
It's a tough one for me. Being that I love the idea of possessed dolls in the sense of like demonic. But for some reason, when it becomes a serial killer or a killer, I just figure my boot's pretty tough. But the thing is I even realized it last night watching this movie. Is you had just mentioned it, but it's the creativity of which he's able to pull off these kills. It's not like the doll's just running at you all the time. It's usually 90% of the time a surprise or something you literally did not see coming.
Yeah, Chucky knows his weakness, right?
Yeah,
he knows he's a 2 foot tall doll, so he's got to use everything he can. He's got to be clever.
And it did really help my perspective on at least appreciating the franchise more watching this one. And obviously just with the couple of minutes we've been on here and hearing you, a big fan of the franchise, especially this one, bring in your tidbits. So yeah, Jake, did you have any high parts of this movie that you really liked or you wanted to talk about?
Kills are great.
Kills are great.
Love the kills. I love towards the end where Chucky doesn't want to transfer his body or his soul into the limo driver anymore.
Yeah.
And he loves being the icon.
Yeah.
That he is.
It's so, yeah, it's
I
very
was like, well, fuck. Maybe I am wrong.
Yeah, see, it's like even in the movie, you're like, well, shit. If a serial killer feels like he can get away with more and is more iconic as a doll, maybe I have been looking at this entire franchise wrong.
You said, you can get sick. You can age. I'm like, damn, this is very true.
Whereas, like, he can get limbs chopped off, and as long as you sew it back on in the general area, you're solid.
Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah.
Well, that's insane.
And that's one of the great things I think about this movie is that it's all three of these characters who, you know, we've seen Chucky and Tiffany before, and then we'll see Glenda again on the show.
Okay.
But it's all about discovering what their real identity is. And that's kind of this background theme of the movie that kind of pervades all characters. So Chucky's story is like, I'm trying to go legit. I'm not going to be a murderer because I want to be a father now. And then he's like, no, not only do I want to be a murderer, I want to be a doll. My entire goal for 4 films has been to turn human. Yeah. And now I'm discovering that, no, I'm accepting the body I'm in. I'm going to be a killer doll. Meanwhile, you've got Tiffany, who's got this absolutely insane arc where she's in love with Jennifer Tilly. Of course, she's voiced by Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah. And
then in the early parts of the movie, even Jennifer Tilly is smitten with Tiffany, and she's like, a guardian angel came to me with a lovely voice. The fact that she went all in on this and was like, take my personal life. Take everything about me and like start referencing like Gina Gershon, like my co-stars from other movies.
Yeah.
Talk about like me losing out Oscars to like Julia Roberts. Like everything is on the table here for her to completely lambast herself in service of what it by all means should be a schlocky horror movie.
Yeah.
And her whole arc is like, I'm going to live my truth. And my truth is that I want to be Jennifer Tilly, which is just insane. But like, it works for how bonkers the movie is. And the movie embraces how bonkers it is from minute one. Yeah. Minute one is like the titles come up and then semen runs down the screen.
I told you watching. I was like, dude, I was not excited about this movie. Then I saw the semen drop down and then the swimmer swimming. And I was like, I'm in, dude. This movie's already got me hooked.
But I think that's what makes you enjoy the movie. Because from the beginning, you know, they're not taking it that serious.
It's not that serious of a movie.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's woke in a sense of like, we can look at it 20 years later.
Yeah.
And pick up on social cues that they were kind of like just playing with that are now currently big in our lives. And one of the things that I loved about it was like the nostalgia of the early 2000s and like who was big and like the different, like Redman being in it was huge for me. I love when different hip hop artists are in our horror movies. Obviously we both get to experience that.
You remember How High?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, that's
classic.
That's a great movie.
But it's just like the misogynistic, like director female thing that like is kind of hush hush a lot of times, and Scream definitely touched on it. But it's just like just in your face. They're not hiding it from anybody. Like, this is how Hollywood is perceived and is. And then for them to play it so casually and funny, and then for him to also just get just gutted, like just like
literally stabbed in the dick.
Yeah,
like
and he's a massive star at the time. Like that's big news to have on your movie, to kill him that way. It's just it literally, like once I saw that, I was like, I'm fully invested in this. That was my point where I was like, oh yeah, I'm in.
Yeah, and they've even cranked it to 11 by having it be through the frame of Jennifer Tilly trying to play the Virgin Mary, but using sex as her way of securing the role. Like, it's so self-aware that they're like, what's the stupidest, silliest movie that we could even have for her in contention for?
Literally, yeah.
And it's the Virgin Mary. And it's like, oh, perfect. Like, that's such a great little moment of like just touching on what the nature of the industry is at that time and really at all times. But really shedding a light in it in 2004. It was done in a really funny way. Again, it's done in a way that they're like, look, we're not here to like offend anybody. We're just here to tell like this story, and we're going to make some jokes along the way. For sure. Like, there's plenty of jokes. There's plenty of taking it not seriously, but like the underlying themes are serious. And I think that's something that's really cool. We're dealing with Glenn/Glenda trying to find like a gender identity. And that's like a huge controversial topic. And it's something that even in the movie, Chucky has his opinions. He's like, I want Glenn to be a boy. And Tiffany's like, I want to be a girl. But at no point is he ever like making fun or making jokes about people's gender identity. It's always just like, no, I have a preference of like what I'd prefer. But if that's what Glenn or Glenda wants at the end of the day, fine by me. I have no like, he's like, I'm a progressive murderer. I just want to kill people. I don't care what you like choose to be. I just want to kill.
And it's super funny because when it comes as Glenda in the movie, he then like immediately comes around to the idea that like maybe the chick version is what he would want to be because it's crazier. And I'm like, how aware is this movie? Like it's not like forcing it down your throat in an uncomfortable manner for anybody, even to watch 20 years later, or 19, if you want to call it that, since we're so early into 2024. But you have to give it a pat on the back and a round of applause at navigating something that at the time, maybe most people weren't like consciously thinking of as much. You know, it exists. You know, it's a thing. You know, Chucky's going to be bonkers crazy, but for them to still have him be like more respectful than like normal people in the world, and he's a murderous doll that has been possessed by an evil serial killer and is still more aware of just being like, oh yeah, this is fine. It's insane to me. It is absolutely mind-blowing.
And he's still Don Mancini is still ahead of the curve today. So like the Chucky TV show, the main character, he's a openly gay teenage boy, and there are no jokes where he's like the butt of the joke. There are no gay jokes. It is a show that is a horror TV series. It's also a teen drama in some respects, but the main characters are two openly gay teen men, and you're like, okay, that's just, and it's never more than that. That's just a facet of their character, and that doesn't become a caricature. It doesn't become a joke. It's just who they are, and that's just. And that's just that. And I can't even think of a show that's on TV now that's not like a crazy bonkers horror show that's got like openly gay teen main characters.
Main characters. They're usually a sub character.
Right.
Or like you said, a lot of times they're like the bullied individual that is then brought in by the core group of people. And you're like, okay, all right, that's fine. But to literally give them that and just like, this is it. Like, there's nothing else to it. This is a normal teenager or teenagers that are just living their lives the way they deem as their life. And I didn't know that. That's really cool.
That's the thing that Don Mancini's done, I think, from the beginning, is that he always just kind of goes in on something and he's like, this is how it is. And we're just going to move forward on it. Like, don't look too closely on this whole voodoo curse thing, because it changes the abilities of the Ade Due Dembala curse. It's a catch-all for like 30 different types of things. it changes from movie to movie what you can do, what happens when you use these words, like whatever. But at the end of the day, he's like, look, I've got whatever I want to tell. I've got whatever I want to do. And we're just going to confidently move forward with whatever that is. Even if it's something absolutely fucking ridiculous. And sometimes, I mean, let's be fair. Sometimes it's not great. The whole made in Japan stamp is not great.
It's 2004. It's like, and then he starts like talking that way and like doing kung fu in the movie.
Yeah,
I was like, ooh.
But what's crazy is knowing how the movie was set up. That certain aspect didn't take me out of it.
It doesn't. It's not,
which is good.
Yeah, it's like if you still can enjoy South Park.
But it is like fucking insane.
Because it's insane. But like, as long as you know its place and you know they're coming from a genuine place of comedy and not bigotry, it's like, how can you be mad at that when they're doing so many other things that are like bringing light things that never have been in a certain specific genre? So you can kind of just, it's not looking past it. I'm not saying that it's like, I just didn't see it as like a racist thing. I saw it as a humorous thing where it's just like, yo, that was hilarious. He literally thinks he's Japanese because it says made in Japan. Like, it's not that bad.
On top of that, makes no sense because nothing's made in Japan.
Yeah, it's all made in China. Yeah.
So it's like, what happened there? Like, was it originally China? And then they were like, whoa, the Chinese market's not going to love this.
Yeah. Whoa.
What happened in the script phase that they made it Japan? I'm dying to know, because that couldn't have been the original thing. There's just no way. That's so bizarre. It's such a weird thing. Nothing's made in Japan.
It's all made in China.
Yeah, nothing really annoyed me about this movie except for Jennifer Tilly kept calling Redman Redman.
Yeah.
That it's a minor detail.
It is,
but it was driving me insane. But she called him Redman one time.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, just call him Redman.
I think
she does call him Mr. Man at one point.
She does.
Yeah, that part's funny. Yeah.
Should I call you Red or Mr. Man?
Yeah. I mean, that is a point that like there are certain aspects of movies where you're just like one thing can like stick with you.
Yeah.
And that's, it's minor, so that's good. Yeah. It's not like a main plot line or anything.
It's just my personal annoyance by it. That's all.
So, John, is there anything that you would change or you don't like about Seed of Chucky?
I mean, so like the made in Japan thing's not great. The weird like Glenn peeing his pants thing is a weird note that they come back to like 6 or 7 times.
It's a lot
throughout the movie, and it's
even towards the end.
Yeah, and they even strip off his pants at one point and are like making weird genitals remarks where they're like, oh, he's definitely a boy. He's definitely a girl. It's like, no, dude, it's a piece of plastic.
Yeah, it's a doll.
So like, even from that standpoint, how can he even pee?
That's a valid question.
Shit. I don't know.
I didn't even think about that.
They also love to do that thing that like so many like late 90s, early 2000s movies were doing, where they end on a non-canonical jump scare, where it's like where the kid Glenn is at his birthday and opens the box and it's like Chucky's arm and the arm comes out and attacks him. Like, they're never going to address that later. It's just like I Know What You Did Last Summer.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, Jennifer Love Hewitt, she's fine. She solved everything. She goes to bed. Wait, what's in the closet? Oh, a guy jumps out and murders her.
Yeah. Next
movie starts. That didn't happen.
Yeah.
She's winning a prize package to like Costa Rica or some shit. Like,
yeah. And
they just wanted it. They just wanted to have a jump scare and like fuck continuity.
Yeah, it's from the seat of everybody's feeling happy about how it ended. How do I make them pee themselves one more time, if you will?
Yeah. How do we make a doll piss his pants for the 19th time?
Is there anything you would change or that you dislike heavily about this movie?
Actually, no.
Yeah.
I would just have her call him Redman. I know.
Such a minor thing, but I get it.
I was really hung up on it.
Yeah. Sometimes that happens though.
Like, the movie itself, even like the Made in Japan thing, I can look past.
I can, yeah.
Now how are they peeing? That's a new thing.
Yeah, that's a whole new thing.
It's weird.
Thank you. John.
It is weird.
That is very weird.
It is weird
because it's then brought to a light when they strip them down and they're like, it's You see it.
Other than that, I would change nothing. And that arm at the end, I'd probably take that out too. Just allow them to. Actually, now think about it too. I'd probably also take out Jennifer Tilly or Tiffany killing the babysitter or maid or whatever.
Yeah,
I'd take that out too.
Yeah, that was my biggest thing.
Yeah, because you're pretty aware that the transfer happened. You don't need that extra.
You saw it when she was getting up off the floor.
Yeah, you don't need the eyes turning green and all that stuff. Yeah, I get
it. I would rather have it been left as like a who's smart enough to pick up on it, rather than it being shoved down my throat as it being the actual thing.
Her being a fucking lunatic.
Yeah. Because that just didn't. I don't know. It was just like that was my biggest thing was the end, like right there when she like kills that maid and then like the eyes change. I was like,
Yeah, the eyes changing too. That's an extra step that you don't need.
It took how long for the final? I mean, granted, I don't know the rules of the curse, as we all know, or the ritual, change. If you will. It changes as it goes. But I just feel like, in my opinion, which I'm just a horror podcaster here, I haven't done anything to create yet, but I would rather have it be like for the people that actually watched it and picked up on everything, for them to leave knowing, and then other ones to then be wondering, because that kind of creates what I love, conversation about horror. And then to just blatantly force it down your throat and then have the corny jump scare at the end. I feel like you could have completely gotten rid of the last 6 or 7 minutes.
Absolutely. Audiences are smart. Audiences are smarter than a lot of writers and directors give them credit for. And I think particularly a lot of the time it comes down to the studios.
Okay.
Like there's an old Guillermo del Toro movie. I think it's The Orphanage. That it's a fantastic movie, but then at the end, when you realize like what the ghosts are, they do this like flashback montage where it's like every single scene of the movie where something happened, and it's like, hey, remember this? Hey, do you remember this part? Yeah. Oh, do you remember when this happened? And it's like, yeah, man, I just fucking watched it. The movie was only 90 minutes.
I will say one thing that I do absolutely love about this movie: hour and 26-minute runtime. Mwah.
Get in, get out.
Action.
Yeah.
You cannot do it much longer than that. You can't.
It is good runtime.
Yeah. Granted, I probably would have liked it at about an hour 20.
Yeah.
With the ending.
But John makes a good point. I mean, we're not dumb.
No.
You can watch it and see it. The transfer happened.
Yeah.
We got it.
Yeah. You got it if you're just a quarter smart.
If you just looked up at that one scene, like, I saw that. If you weren't watching anything and you saw that, I got it.
Look up at the end of the movie and you're like, that's what happened.
The mere fact that we're at Glenn and Glenda's birthday alone should be enough to cue the audience in on what's happening.
Yeah.
It really felt like telling more than showing. You never want that when you have an opportunity to show something. And what they did choose to show was weird. The eyes turning green, the arm coming to life, like everything that they did show was weird, and everything that they told could have been shown better.
Yeah.
Correct.
Yeah. And I'm a big fan of full circle moments. I mention it all the time on the podcast, but that whole like gift without a name thing, I was just like, it doesn't do much for me. And especially what the gift was. We just mentioned that.
You knew kind of who was from or what it could be.
Yeah.
This random gift in a blue and yellow box with no name.
Yeah.
I wonder what that could be.
Yeah, it could have just been a bloody good guy's shirt.
Yeah, it could have been
like, oh shit, he ain't done yet. And it's just like that. Yeah, it is still a good movie, but the ending just kind of
well, especially when you establish how easy it is to bring Chucky and Tiffany back to life. Like they've been brought back to life. At this point, this is their 5th time, or 4th if you're not considering the first movie, but 5th time coming back to life. Literally, it's as simple as Glenn reading a pendant. Just Ade Due Dembala. Oh, okay, that's it. Great. These dolls that for some reason they're making a movie about right now that are also Chucky and Tiffany. Just taking it an extra level of being meta.
Just a whole meta. Like it's just the deepest meta you can imagine.
Which
I was fine with it. I loved it. And it's funny though, because I was thinking in my head, like, yo, that Santa Claus kill is gonna be my top. And I was like, wow, damn it. It's not even real. I was like, that shit was dope. And I see it zoom out and I'm like, no.
One funny thing is, so like the special effects artist that gets his head chopped off by Chucky, that's the actual special effects artist.
Oh no shit!
Chucky and Tiffany.
That's awesome.
So he's the actual rigger and creator of all of those. And to have him just play himself and get killed in the movie was like, oh, that's just beautiful. It's cool.
It is. Yeah. And that was my favorite kill in the whole movie was that guy getting his head chopped off. But I liked what also led into it because they're in a prop room. And when Jennifer Tilly walks in, she's just like walking over blood and decapitation, picks up the thing, kisses it. And then she's like, hold on. This is real. And it was just like, yo, that's the cool, like, that's hilarious to me. Because like literally she's walking over a puddle of blood in front of a staged blood bottle. And you're just like, how perfect is these little details that they decided to go forward with?
I did wonder, one, why she did that. And two, at what point did she realize it was an actual human?
It had to be the warmth from the lips, dude. That's all I can imagine.
Well, she's kind of still holding it for a little bit too.
Did like something click or crunch?
You gotta hope that, like, I mean, I don't think they go as far, but like have something dripping, you know, like have some little extra something there to really sell it. Because there is like a moment where you're like, why is she now getting it?
Exactly? Yeah.
She picked it up off the ground,
and it's like maybe it's heavier than she anticipated.
She fucking flirted with a dude's severed head. Like, she's still not getting this.
It's insane. But that was one of my favorite parts of the movie. Like, other than the John Waters shit, like that part right there was just like super, like just aware of itself and fun.
So I think my favorite scene is when Jennifer, Joan, and Tiffany are all on the phone.
Oh, yeah.
And now their voices. Yeah, that was good. I enjoyed that scene.
That is good.
Jennifer's losing it because she thinks Joan is doing an impression of her.
Yeah, impersonating her. Yeah.
The movie is so full of dumb moments like that. And like in any other movie, like you'd be like, well, this is stupid. But because everyone's so committed to it, and you do have like Jennifer Tilly is an Oscar nominated actress, and she really is. She's somebody who has had a very good career.
Yeah.
And who then chose like, fuck it, I'm going to go all in. And like ever since then, she's been all in too. Like she's on the show. She takes it to a whole nother level. There's an entire episode where she's been living as Tiffany for like 20 years now. Her sister, her real life sister, who's also an actress, Meg Tilly, shows up and is like, I need to give you an intervention because you've been acting very strangely for a very long time. She fucking murders her.
Oh shit.
Like, she has a party with Gina Gershon and Joey Pantoliano, like two co-stars from other movies, and murders them. It's just like, oh my God, like you've just continued to go into your own personal history and found that nothing is sacred. Yeah. And that you're just going to go all in on it. And for someone who's as esteemed an actress as Jennifer Tilly to say like, no, everything is fair game. Everything is on the table. Let's get as silly as you want.
Yeah.
It's a once in a generation kind of thing. And they kind of touched in it, you know, like you guys were talking about Wes Craven's New Nightmare.
Yeah.
Robert Englund is there in the movie.
Yeah.
But he's not, I mean, he's like Robert Englund as we would have him in real life.
Yeah.
He's like, oh no, after like the scene where he jumps out and he's on the talk show and stuff. And you're like, okay, he's playing a character of himself. But after that, he's like, oh no, like, oh, Heather, are you having problems? Like, oh, what's wrong? And you're like, oh no, he's like a caring individual.
Dude. Yeah.
Right. And this one, there is nothing that is off the table for Jennifer Tilly.
Yeah.
In her real life.
Yeah.
To make fun of.
Yeah. Yeah. She's just willing to fully commit to that whole herself, her persona.
Yeah. Committing to the bit 100%.
That's huge though. That's massive, especially when it's spawned for as long as it has. Like that's not heard of. Especially like people are, you know, it seems like, and I can't speak on behalf of Hollywood people, just what I see, but they, you know, most of them wouldn't do that to this extent of this long. And it's like to be that just like it's huge for horror and it's huge for her to be that aware and to be that cool, even being an Academy Award nominated actress, or most of the time, as soon as you get that nod, you're just, you know, too good for anything. And it's cool that she just fully committed to the bit, and it's just been making us laugh and making us smile for 20 plus years. It's huge. Yeah. And it's
absolutely.
It's that is really cool. Was your favorite kill then, or one of your favorite moments to John Waters, or do you have another one?
Yeah, I think John Waters is my favorite kill, just because it's the goriest, and it's kind of in some ways also the funniest, because Chucky's got this really elaborate kill planned where he's like hanging from the ceiling and he's got a knife, and then Glenn comes in and is like, "No!"
Oh, slow motion,
He falls in his face melts, and Chucky's like, "Good on you, buddy." You got a real killer instinct in you, little guy.
And it's
so obviously an accident, but Chucky's like, "No, I don't care. I'm gonna like headcanon this is intentional."
Yeah, it's cool because like the kid's like trying to not disappoint dad, but also trying to be like, I don't want to kill, and you see that like conflict for a second there once he's taking the picture, and then it was just like, a lot of us strive for those moments with dad, so you're just gonna ride it out and hope for the best.
Absolutely. Well, and the fact that like they were able to make an entire movie where the main characters were the villains.
Yeah.
And you stuck with it. They brought Chucky around, and you're like cheering by the end when he's like, "I'm a killer doll, and that's what I want to be."
You're right, Chucky. You so are.
Right? You're like, that's empowering, man. And you're like, no, dude, you're a serial killer. You've killed so many people in so many horrible ways. But the fact that like the champion moment of this movie is Chucky being like, "I love being a murderous doll," and the audience is behind you on that.
I was in it.
I was like, "You're damn right you are, Chucky." You're right. You're a doll that kills. You don't age.
What other movie revels in their villain stepping out from being the villain and is like, "No, I'm committing to being horrible, but we're still going to root for you."
Yeah. I literally can't.
I'm just going to own it.
Yeah.
This is who I am.
This is who I am.
Yeah. I would say Art the Clown is the closest you get.
It is the closest, but also you don't. There's like zero dialogue from Art, so you just have to appreciate for like what he does. Whereas like Chucky and like you mentioned earlier with Freddy Krueger, they're both the slapstick comedy, butts of the joke that then, Chucky kind of rose out of that to become who he is, which is huge because even in Wes Craven's New Nightmare, like I mentioned, like he goes down like a bitch. Like you build this up as a new nightmare, and then he goes down from a Hansel and Gretel story with a mom and a kid. Whereas like Chucky, bro, he had to be chopped up by his own kid from chopping his wife in the head. Like that's Chucky. Like that. He's Chucky till the end. And it just honestly, being that it's that comedic horror character, you do have to put some respect on it that like at the end of the day, he goes down just like he came up.
Yeah,
and,
I agree.
And it's Chucky 101. It's awesome.
Absolutely. I think, no kill in any of the series, I think tops Chucky's death from Child's Play 2 when they're in the good guys doll factory and they literally melt him with the like liquid plastic.
It's insane.
That scene is I would say the best scene of the entire franchise. But for a long time people were really down on Seed of Chucky. Yeah. And then Don Mancini came back with Curse of Chucky and then Cult of Chucky, which were like direct to streaming, and people were like, "Oh, we have no really expectations. We have no high hopes for this." And then again, he surprised everyone by going hard back into horror.
Yeah.
And so like Cult of or Curse of Chucky is starring Brad Dourif's daughter, Fiona Dourif.
Okay.
Who looks, by the way, just like him, which is kind of weird. But like the movie, she's a paraplegic. She's in a wheelchair and she's in this like creepy old house. And you find a way to make Chucky scary because you've got somebody who is not able to get away from him. So you find, again, he's a 2 foot tall doll. Like there's like, how many ways can you really set up to make it that difficult? And so by creating a new kind of final girl main character who's like, "Oh no, I'm paraplegic," and it's like, okay, well now she's like differently able, and you're like, well, all of a sudden a 2 foot tall doll becomes a lot more threatening when you don't have use of legs. Like you keep saying, like, I'm just gonna punt him.
Yeah.
What if you can't punt him?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. hey, you know what, John, you single-handedly have changed my whole perspective on Chucky and Child's Play and all that. So I thank you for wanting to cover Seed of Chucky. If you would have asked me 4 days ago, 3 days ago, hell, 2 days ago, if I thought that this is how the episode was going to go, I'd tell you you're fucking crazy.
I gotta say, I'm shocked after listening to your other episodes. I was like, oh man, I gotta like have like my arguments like lined up. You guys are gonna rip this movie apart. Yeah, it is the weakest entry by most honestly. Well, a lot of people say number 3 is the weakest entry. No offense, but
buddy, you just can't catch a break.
No, I can't.
At least I didn't say one. I was just like, I'm riding with it. I'm enjoying it.
No, 3 was the one where he was like, where Don Mancini came out of it being like, I can't hold on to him being a solidly horror character anymore. I have to find a different direction for him. And unlike Freddy Krueger, who I think Freddy Krueger was the victim of becoming a joke.
Yeah.
You know, you started him with, he always had quips.
Yeah.
But like, welcome to primetime, bitch. Like that became such an iconic joke line for Dream Warriors in number 3. And then they like doubled down and tripled down in 4 and 5 and 6. Like Freddy's Dead, when he's like playing video games and Breckenmeyer is like a video game character. And you're like, what is even happening in this movie?
Yeah.
He's the butt of a joke.
Yeah.
You know, Jason becomes the butt of a joke. Jason Takes Manhattan. That guy punches him up on the rooftop conservatively 400 times before Jason one punches his head off. You know, and you're like, okay, well, this is like, what am I watching, right? Michael Myers. Hey, okay, look, I'm not gonna say it's bad.
You're good.
But like, what other franchise do you seriously have Busta Rhymes having a chainsaw fight in a cabin with Michael Myers?
Damn right.
Yeah, it's bad.
Damn right. Busta throws down. Hey,
I mean, it was a fun scene.
And Busta.
It was a fun scene, but like, was it a good scene? Like, was it a good movie? I don't know if I can say that.
It wasn't, and I'm okay with saying that. You know, and it is crazy because, as far as like I said, continuity and actually following somewhat of a story that started, you know, how long ago? And then
1988 was the first one.
88, yeah. So that's huge. 10 years post Halloween, obviously took it in its own little slasher way. And has revolutionized doll sales and fear of serial killer possessed.
I do see some Jason in the background.
Yeah, which Jason mask is that? If you don't mind asking.
Yeah, so that's the Jason 4 mask up here, and then so we've got you can't really see it, but we've got Jason and Freddy up here.
Okay,
we've got Penny. We got Pennywise and Art the Clown here.
Ooh.
We've got I'm like mirrored here. We've got Pinhead and a Lament configuration over here.
Yeah. Oh, also, I just want to say real quick, I didn't know it was the Lament configuration until we did trivia together as a podcast. But also, you say it in slash tag, and I was like, yeah, I know what that means. So that's awesome that you have one of those.
Yeah, we got one of those. There's also you can kind of see it behind Chucky here. We've got a Dayglow Art the Clown face. Now Michael Myers is here. He's just below me, so don't worry.
He's on the bottom
represented. He's just a little lower. They're all standing on top of stacks of their own VHSs.
Oh, that's cool. Okay, that's right.
Which is kind of how I wanted, but you can't really see it in a lot of in the background. But you know what the weirdest thing? So VHS sales. If you guys have any like old VHSs,
I don't.
Yeah, keep them. Okay.
Raid that attic, bro.
I'm on.
Keep them. I when I was setting up like this display, I was like, I'll buy some like old VHSs of the horror movies for them to stand on. It'll be fun. I went to buy some like old Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies.
Yeah.
The VHSs like start at $200.
Great googly muggly.
Yeah, I was like,
$100?
$200? And then I started looking at other things just because I was curious.
Yes.
Like a mint condition VHS of Back to the Future, easy $3,000. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
Better go raid your mom's attic, bro.
Right? So like if you got any old VHSs, like they're making a comeback.
Hopefully
Physical media, man.
Is that a cotton candy cooking up there?
Oh yeah, that's from Killer Clowns from Outer Space.
Right there on the lamp.
Yeah. We got the cotton candy.
That's awesome.
We got a ghost face up there. There's a ghost face behind me over here.
Oh hell yeah.
Yeah. No, they're everywhere.
We have self-promotion right here, and that's about it. I got some other stuff in the studio, but we don't try to put it behind us. And we used to have a couple masks back in the day. Yeah, I kept Michael Myers above me. He kept Jason above him because we both have autographed Kane Hodder, Jason Takes Manhattan masks that we're both very proud of.
Oh, that's nice.
Yeah.
We met him at a convention. It was pretty rad.
I went to Monster Palooza last year, and Robert Englund and Kane Hodder were there, and
nice.
I brought my VHS of Freddy versus Jason, even though Kane wasn't the Jason for that one. But Robert Englund got COVID, and and he couldn't go, and it was so sad. There was a dude there who had built the TV Welcome to Primetime, and he had the arms, and they were on like sticks. They were huge, and I took a picture with him, and he was like, yeah, I spent 3 months making this to show to Robert.
That sucks.
I was like, oh, you're even sadder than I am today.
Yeah, you're only going to wait in line for 78 hours to meet him. We went to Texas Frightmare, and he was there along with the entire Scream cast. Awesome. And when I say it was butt to nut in that building, AC didn't work, and people were having to stand and sit in line for like 9 hours to meet those people. We were like,
it was rough.
We'll meet we got to meet Dick Warlock, which we were like, fuck yeah, that's Dick Warlock, Halloween 2, the thing. Like, we were stoked. That was it. That was the highlight of our weekend.
I got to see Neve Campbell twice.
You almost pushed her over.
I got to see her though.
It's funny though, because Neve was kept on the other side of the entire convention center. Like, she was alone, and then it was like Skeet, Matthew Lillard, and Jamie Kennedy all lined up on the other side. And I was there's got to be some tension here.
And we somehow, roaming around, still bumped into her again.
Still bumped into her
on the other side of the fucking building.
Yeah, that's true.
Awesome.
Yeah, no, we love conventions. They're a hoot of a time. Is there anything else you wanted to ask, Mr. John?
No, we can just
ready to do the thing?
Get these ratings.
Get into the ratings. All right, John, I think you've heard it on the podcast before, man.
Yeah.
On a scale, we're going to start with you, then we're going to go to Jake, then we'll do myself. On a scale from 1 to 10, what do you rate Seed of Chucky?
I rate every Chucky movie a 10 out of 10. Every one of them.
All right.
That's your top of the line.
In terms of like rewatchability, you could show me any Chucky movie at any time, and I'm going to sit down and I'm going to watch the whole thing, and I'm not even going to look at my phone.
That's a solid point.
Also, I will sit and watch any Chucky movie at any time. And that, to me, that's a 10 out of 10.
Hey, that's a very valid reasoning for that.
It is.
I respect that. Jake, on a scale from 1 to 10, what do you rate Seed of Chucky?
On a scale from 1 to 10, I rate a 7.
Nice.
Yeah.
Solid from you.
I'm aware.
Golly gee Whittaker's Batman.
What about you?
That may be on a scale from 1 to 10. I rate Seed of Chucky a 7.5.
I knew you were going to do that.
Whoa. You priced is right at him.
I knew
you were going to make me have the lowest fucking rate. I knew you were going to do that.
I had to. I had no choice, man. I had to do it. No, I enjoyed it. If you would have asked me what I thought my rating was of it 2 days ago, fucking 3.5, 4.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, I was like, there's no way this movie's good. Then I sat down and watched it, and I enjoyed every bit of it, minus that one little thing that I mentioned. So that was I thank you, John, for having us cover this movie.
Yeah, thank you very much.
I appreciate you guys giving it a shot. A lot of people don't want to give it a shot, so I'm glad that you tried it out.
No, see, the whole thing is it doesn't matter what we like on the podcast. That's stupid as fuck. You can listen to us like for 80 some odd episodes and hear us talk about movies we love and we hate. What we like to do is give people an opportunity to stand up for these crazy movies that they enjoy for whatever reason they do. A lot of times we're heavily ammunited, got a lot of ammunition against them and we're ready to go. You're a prime example of what happens when we think we're going to have that. And then we watch the movie and we're like, well, goddamn, now I might be on something here. It's a solid film.
One question. So Child's Play 3 for you is still a 10 out of 10?
It's still a 10 out of 10, but it is the bottom of the list.
Okay.
It's like a 9.9999.
I heard 10 out of 10. That's all I
Still
had.
10 out of 10. Honestly, the only thing that really dings it for me is that they did a time jump and recast Andy Barclay.
Yeah.
Oh wow.
Sure, yeah. This is a different.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't.
You haven't seen it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
No.
If you watch the show, they bring it back to the original kid. The kid who was 6 years old in the first movie. He's on the show.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I love when they do shit like that. Yeah.
Kyle, the girl who is rooming with him in the second movie because his mom gets fucking killed by Chucky in minute 1 of the second movie, and he's in a foster home. His foster sister Kyle, she's on the Chucky show.
Oh, that's great.
She was at a convention that we did not talk to her.
We didn't talk to her.
Yeah.
We saw Chucky and we're like, no, I mean there's certain people that we want to meet, and Kane Hodder's the top of that list.
You can't go much higher, yeah.
But he's the person that you can meet and he'll be cool, but also like his line's only like 20 minutes long. It's like not the worst thing in the world.
Oh, so we did scam him out of $60.
We did. We got some second free autographs.
Not purposely, but it did happen.
If he was to ever ask.
How did that happen?
So it's a crazy thing. So when we finally got up to meet Kane Hodder, it was time to take the pictures that we had prepaid for. So he was going to pause autographs to run over to take the professional photos where like he'll choke you or whatever. And we purchased that time slot, but we were next in line. So we had to leave the line, run over there, get at the back of that line, get our pictures taken. He choked me out. He stood next to him because he's like, that's a big motherfucker right there, which is like the highest honor in the world. And it was cool because prior to that, we're like walking over with Kane Hodder and we look like we're part of his security detail because we're both like well over 6 foot, bigger dudes. But we get over there and like I ask him, I'm like, hey man, like, is there any way we can get back to the front of the line? Like we were next. And he was like, yeah, just tell him Kane said it's cool. And we're like, what?
Yeah, we'll do that.
I'm hauling ass to get over there. Jake's just around this shit. Like, and the whole line of people, 50, 60, 70 people are just mean mugging us. They saw us walk off for 20 minutes, then just meander on back to the front of the line. Well, I get up there. I'm like, Kane, such a pleasure to meet you, man. Great work. And I have the picture that I just had taken with him and the mask that we just forementioned. I slide them both in front of him. He signs them both. I only paid the $60 for the one. I grab them and I murk. Jake follows suit, does the exact same thing. So technically speaking, we murked him for like 120.
Yeah, because he looks at me and I just say, same thing.
Yeah.
And I slide it to him.
And like, I wasn't trying to get over on him, but also like, dude, that picture cost me like $60. You can't just throw a couple little squiggle lines on this bad boy and call it a day. But yeah, and the only person that seemed upset once Jake walked away was his like assistant. And she like whispered something in his ear where he was probably like, hey, make sure you check that they're paying per item.
She was fully aware of what I was doing.
She's like, it's too late this time. But from now on, you got to charge them.
But the next one, be on it.
I'm sure everybody else that weekend had very tight security around because two guys that had never been to a horror convention together ever or period didn't know each other very well. We had become friends on the trip there.
Yeah.
And we're experiencing this whole vibe for the first time, kind of losing our minds, meeting people we've only seen on screen. And yeah, that's how we finessed Kane Hodder himself. He's little. He's a littler guy than I thought.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He's old though, so it's not like he's in his prime.
He's probably in his 30s. Ripped and doing his shit. Yeah.
It looks way better than me in my 30s.
Yeah. I should have gave him his money back in the bathroom when I saw him.
Yeah, you got to pee next to him.
Yeah.
I was just out there being the bitch holding all the bags.
Yeah.
Okay, buddy.
Anyway, that was fun.
Yeah, that was a blast. John, we hope you had a good time on the podcast, man.
I had a great time. Thank you so much for having me on.
Of course. Any new books or anything in the works, or are you kind of just taking a pause right now?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a book coming out. It's not coming out till next year. It's called The Creed Falls Massacres. It's like it's my version of Freddy vs. Jason. It's like Jason versus the Strain. So it's like a small town. A Jason-like figure comes up to life in a mask. But simultaneously, the town is being overrun by a plague of monsters that live in people's throats and shoot things at people.
Shit.
So that's coming out next year. But in the meantime, yeah, I've got Slash Tag right now, which I think is probably the one that your fans are going to be the most into because it's like super meta horror. And then Try Not to Die on Slash Tag came out last week, which is a standalone prequel that's a choose your own adventure. And then, I'm working for Stop the Killer Games. I'm their lead designer right now. We've got games coming out this year of Basket Case, Black Christmas, Thanksgiving. I feel like I'm forgetting one, but there's a bunch of like nostalgia horror movie board games that I'm making for them right now. That they're pretty neat. They're running kind of the gamut from like really simple party games to like really intense strategy. The Black Christmas one, they're like trying to figure out the phone number of who's calling at the house.
That's cool.
So you're trying to like keep them on the line and stuff, but you're also getting murdered a bunch.
That's
It's
hard to stay on phone when you're getting stabbed in the back.
Yeah,
all things horror.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And we've had this little ad at the bottom. All of our fans, please go to his website, check out all of his work. You can purchase his book on Amazon. I did it. You can go to Audible and get his book. Very cheap, very affordable. I'll tell you, it's worth every single penny. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I am maybe not the best person to ask, but considering that I don't read a lot of books, and this one knocked me out of my world to the point where I was texting Jake like, dude, I don't think I can talk to this guy. You are
the perfect person to ask.
Yeah,
this.
I was freaking out, man. I had a whole moment yesterday where I had to really calm down and breathe. I hadn't fanboyed like this on the podcast before. Every chapter it just kept getting better, and the ending is just fucking insane.
Well, thank you very much. It's super nice to say. I really appreciate it. I mean, I wrote the book for people who are like horror fanatics, right? Like the book is written as a horror fanatic for horror fanatics. So
I picked up on a lot of that, but also what you did with the ending and everything is super fucking dope. I'm not going to ruin anything for anybody, but I'm telling you right now, you cannot guess the ending, and you cannot guess what the fuck happens throughout this entire process of a book. It is legitimately amazing. We appreciate you being on the podcast. You have an open invitation. Anytime you want to come on, just shoot us an email, any movie you want to talk about, any future projects you want to talk about.
Oh, there's so many movies. We're going to talk about Puppet Master next time. That's great.
Dude, we're so in. You have an open invitation anytime to come on the podcast, sir. We appreciate you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thanks for giving me an excuse to have a beer at 1 p.m. my time.
Cheers. Cheers to the Drinking Horror Podcast. Yes. Thank you so much for cracking one open early on the West Coast for us East Coast guys. We hope you have a good rest of your night, man. Like I said, email us if you ever want to come back on the show, man. We appreciate you so much.
Awesome. Take care, guys.
Thank you so much.
Too.